Hello and welcome to the latest Q&A in Screen Internationals for Your Consideration screening series. My name is Stuart Kemp and I'm delighted to be speaking to Shariff Korver, the director of Do Not Hesitate, the Dutch entry for Best International Film at the Oscars 2022. Shariff's film is an original and unusual take on the modern war film. Set in the Middle East, it tells the story of a platoon of Dutch soldiers engaged in a peacekeeping mission, a local goat herder, and the terror of modern day war. Welcome, Shariff.
Thank you, Stuart.
So your film is an original and unusual take on the modern war film. What drew you to Jolien Lammen's script and the topic?
Right, so this film originated by an article that I read about 10 years ago. I was still a film student at the Dutch Film Academy. And I read this particular article about young Dutch soldiers that were just being deployed to Afghanistan. After 5 months, they were on their way back to Holland. And on their way back, they were sent to Greece, by all means, to spend 2 days at a party island doing a debriefing, which basically meant blowing off some steam before going back to mom and dad. In those 2 days, they would do a therapy session during the daytime, and in the night they were allowed to go and party and drink for the first time in 5 months. And those night escapades, they went completely wrong. They were misbehaving, they were fighting within each other, they were fighting the locals, and this made the news, made the politics, and the question raised: is this the right way to treat our young soldiers? And after they went to Afghanistan to do a peace mission over there. It was actually meant all well, because the idea was to give them opportunity to have sort of a small, something in between going home and whatever they went to in Afghanistan. But basically reading that article, I had this, I didn't see the film yet, but I had this vision of young boys having all these feelings inside that were not being capable to somehow show them. And what they would do then is engage into a fight and misbehave. And that image, that feeling of that image, that image of that feeling, that's something that I kept with me. And after finishing film school, I went on and made my first feature film. And then during the edit of that first feature film, I reread the article and I thought, this is going to be my next film. And this is 7 years ago. I asked the producer and I asked Jolien, and I said, Jolien, listen, I don't have the story yet. I just have this image of a feeling. How about we make a film about it? And well, here we are 7 years later. Basically, what we did then is engage into something about a year of research. We really wanted to get a sense of, what is a mission? What does it mean for young kids going on a mission? And that was quite hard, because as a filmmaker, obviously we would have liked to have gone there to Afghanistan and see it with our own eyes, but that was impossible to do. So the only thing that we could do, though, is interview veterans and sort of get their experiences, gather their experiences, and read about it and watch documentaries. And that sort of gave us tons of information. And what we did then is try to put all that information into a film, and that was impossible. So after 2 years of writing and researching, we had to go back to the drawing table, and we said, we started with young kids, we need to stick to the young kids. And that's when we chose to make the film in a way smaller, to tell the bigger story, but with a very narrow POV. And it was just to tell the story about young Dutch soldiers meeting this young Arabic boy. And whatever was happening around them, we could only know it if our characters would know it. And I'll tell you one thing, though, that if you're a soldier, there's little that you know. There's so much more going on that you're not involved into, because you're not supposed to. You're just supposed to follow orders, and that's it. And that creates a very, I wanted to say interesting, but it's also sad, but actually very complicated experience of being young, being deployed in this far, far away country, carrying a gun, a uniform, being told that we're there to do good, to help the local people. But at the same time, there is an enemy that you don't see, but could be everywhere and is aiming to kill you.
Right.
And that sort of, yeah, I mean, that process for us discovering that and for us writing that, and actually Yolande wrote the script and she did an amazing job. And I just supported her along the way until we were ready to go and shoot.
And in fact, on that, what's intriguing is that all the research and many years of it, you put it into finding these actors who could actually be soldiers. I wonder if you could describe that process. How difficult was it to find actors that could almost certainly be soldiers and therefore bring a certain authenticity to the scenes?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it was obviously not easy. Because I had one thing, I was really keen on making the audiences believe that they were watching real soldiers and not actors pretending to be soldiers. And obviously it helps that they're young, so they're not famous people that you know. So there are new talents, new faces. And we tried doing some auditions with real soldiers, but that didn't work, because I think our roles that we were, casting for were too challenging for non-actors to play. Because they have an arc, they have a lot of dialogues, a lot of emotions, and I also like a certain way of acting that's really underscored, that sort of helps. Basically, if you want to create something realistic, you need really good actors in order for them to not overact. So after a little, we realized that was not going to be the route to go, and then we went basically, and we saw many young actors, and we chose the best actors that we could find. And I gave them an assignment. I told them on day one of shooting, I want you to step on the set as a soldier, not as an actor. I want you to be that soldier. That means that you have to change everything that you are, because it's not a secret, but young kids being an actor at that age are usually, as ours, students of a theater school, students of a film school. There are sensitive kids. They don't have the body nor the mind nor anything that makes them a type of boy that would join the military. So what they did is, first of all, they went on a diet, they went to the gym, and they became physically a soldier. And we hired a veteran to train them. And they went on a sort of a compressed military camp to learn how to shoot, to learn how to move, to learn how to talk, to learn the whole thing. And then our rehearsals, I didn't rehearse the scene with them. I got an apartment and asked them to live together, cook together, sleep in the same room, go to the gym together. And I would come and visit, and we'll talk about the roles and the film. But I wanted them to create that sense of camaraderie that's very important for the military, that you really feel that they were a group, for the good and the bad. Because it's not all, and that's something that I hope that when you see the film, you feel that's something that that comes across, that and I'm actually very happy with the results, because if you would see the actors right now, you would never recognize them.
Really,
they're so different from their parts. And even to give you a last detail, theater school students, they get drilled in their speech. They need to talk really well and articulate. But when we watched a lot of documentaries about soldiers, and I interviewed a lot. They don't get those. So I asked them, I need you to talk, and they trained and they trained. It was so hard that we ended up using little pieces of sponge, like The Godfather, put them under their lips for them to articulate less good.
Oh wow!
And to give that,
you placed the impediments into their mouths to prevent them from their media training too.
Exactly. And even, they all three, they speak with an accent. So I didn't want them to talk like the cool guys that they are, the city boys that they are. And they all learned an accent from certain regions of Holland. And I think even though if you don't speak Dutch, you'll tell that they're authentic. At least that's what I hope. Yeah.
On that, there's an extraordinary performance from the young goat-herd boy, that comes across the soldiers. He's played by a Syrian refugee, Omar Alwan, who lives in the Netherlands. It's mesmerizing, his performance. How intensely did you work to draw such an eye-catching performance from him? I mean, it's his kid.
Yeah, I mean, Omar is he was 15 then, I think, just 16, and in all honesty, I've done my fair amount of castings. I've done a lot of TV work. I've seen many actors, and this was by far the most challenging part that I had ever have to cast. Because where do you find a kid in that age with that temperament, that energy, that fearlessness? It was really hard, and we searched all over the world, and by chance we ended up finding him in Holland. And by chance, because what are the odds, right?
Right.
And he was 12 when he escaped Syria, and he traveled for 3 months through Turkey, Greece, all across Europe, and fate. He ended up in Holland by somehow, and being in a asylum seeker center, he got training by a group of theater and filmmakers, and he was chosen out of 400 kids to play a part in a short film they made. And wow. While searching and researching, we came across that short film, and we realized this is from Holland, and that was already 2 years ago. So basically, we tried to contact him, and we asked him to do an audition, and his audition was so strong that I immediately told everybody, we have stop searching, we have him. And this kid, he's so nice. He's just so nice that you won't believe it. He has nothing to do with his character. And that's what I feel, that he's so good at it, because sometimes you find a child actor that has the quality to dig into his fantasy and become somebody that he's not just in a matter of a second, just a second. Like, he doesn't need to do method acting. I'm going to be honest. I talked little about the film with him because I realized that his talent was to be in the moment without thinking. And I was afraid that if I was going to over talk the role in the film, he would become aware of the bigger themes, become aware of the whole thing about making a film. And I wanted to keep it playful and something that we just do in the moment. So I didn't read the script with him. We didn't rehearse. He would come to the set and I would tell him, Omar, today we're going to do this scene. That's it. You only have to do this one scene. You don't have to think about the whole. Just do this scene. And I mean, the scenes were challenging for him. The scenes were very, very challenging. So I would just make it into a sport of making something positive to, let's see if we try and do that. And obviously we were really aware of the fact that like this kid has seen things that I mean, he has a history. He comes from a country in war. So we were very, very keen on not giving him, any extra traumas by making the film. So we had to talk a lot with his parents. We had to talk with his agent. We had to talk to all his environment and make sure, like, okay, we're touching these themes, these type of scenes. Are we sure that, like, he's gonna be fine with that? And so there was a lot of that, obviously. But at the same time, we needed to make this film and make sure that whatever his character was going through was good and realistic. So I'm actually very happy to hear from you that you liked it, and it had that impact, because that's what we were aiming for. And I do hope that we will hear more of him in the future.
Now, so you mentioned earlier that you couldn't get to any part of the Middle East to film, so you shot in Crete. What was the most challenging part of that?
Well, to start, it was very challenging to find a location to because sometimes people shoot those type of films in Morocco or in Jordania, and I went there and it's beautiful, but I had a different take on finding the location, and that comes from research. I interviewed one veteran, and he told me that when he was 18 and he went to Afghanistan, he had never been somewhere outside of Europe, and he told me that when he arrived there, he felt that he was on a mission to Mars film, that it looked so different than anything that he has ever envisioned, that he felt like he was on another planet. So I thought, when we make this film, I'm not going to go for realism. I'm going to go for that subjective feeling of being on another planet. So I told my location scouts to find me that. I wanted sort of a landscape that had this larger than life feeling, and if you go to Morocco, it's very beautiful. And I didn't want it to just be beautiful, but I also needed it to be menacing and different. And somehow we found this mountain on Greece, on the island of Crete, where the origin story started, because actually the soldiers 15 years ago were sent to Crete. Right. And this mountain was just had this dry type of stones and trees, and it had exactly that feeling. And the challenge we had is you're shooting in the middle of nowhere, and there's no control on the weather. So when we had a lot of windstorms, for example. We lost a couple of shooting days because of the windstorms. When it's hot, it's really hot. When it's cold, it's extremely cold. When the mosquitoes want to ruin your day, they will definitely will. But I feel that the location being challenging, it's something that the actors had to endure as well, and it helped them in their performances. And I feel like you might feel in the film that this place is not a comfortable place to be. And then what we did is that, because this place is an open place, right? It's a 360 place. And that's because this location was so open and so nice, we had to think about how are we going to shoot the film to sort of give you a subjective feeling of how it is to be a soldier in this open space. Because the thing about being in an open space is that the enemy could come from anywhere. And that's why we chose to film the film aspect ratio 4:3. It's to basically, you have this horizontal landscape and we cut the edges away, and you're only able to see this little, and there is a lot going on around you. And we did some tests with aspect ratios, and that's what we went for this 4:3, to give you that feeling of claustrophobic feeling of being entrapment in an open place, which is sort of the whole thing.
Brilliant. Finally, because we have to keep it short, I'm intrigued as to what would you most like audiences to take home with them from your film?
Yeah, that's a good one. So first of all, I think that whatever you take with you should be a feeling and not thoughts or a message. I think like a film should always leave you with a feeling. And I've been to a couple of festivals and shown this film to audiences, and I feel like it's going to leave you with a strong feeling, and it might be a bit unsettling at first. It might be a bit shocking, but I like to think that the film will settle down in you, and it's not going to leave you just continue with your life like that. And I hope it will make you think about the themes that we touch, about the fact of being a young kid in the military. And I truly hope that the film is not going to just say to you, war is bad or war is good, but it's going to show you how extremely complicated a situation of war is, and how a lot of good intentions can go wrong. And at the end of the day, the ones that are going to pay for it are the young kids who are in the front line.
I mean, it's an extreme coming of age story against the backdrop of war.
It is, yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for taking part in this Screen International Best International Film at the Oscars 2022 nomination category. It's been fantastic, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much for taking part.
Thank you for having me, Stuart.